Welcome back, everybody, to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. One of your hosts, Celine, and Coach Ralph is the other host, the co-host. Coach, mixed results over the past week.
Oh, yes, yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of very disappointed Liverpool fans worldwide today after the draw at United, for sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of starting to notice a theme with Liverpool lately and some of the teams that are at the bottom of the table that we're having a hard time really convincingly win the games. The game at with Sheffield on Thursday, it was 1-0 relatively quickly with Darwin tracking down the ball and big mistake by Gerbic, the Sheffield goalie. And yet we couldn't tack on a second goal to really kind of put the game away. And then they get back into it, and it takes a wonder strike from Maka and great cross from Robo to Gakpo to actually put the game away. But Sheffield had opportunities, and I'm kind of trying to, I want Liverpool to win it, but I'm noticing a big difference in the defenses of Arsenal and Liverpool. And Arsenal are putting teams away. They're not really conceding many chances. They're really looking like the favorite now.
I would agree with that. I watched the Arsenal-Brighton game, and I think you're correct. Arsenal played with a lot of authority, and they've certainly kicked on and moved on from their experiences of last season. Liverpool, I think there's a couple of factors that you have to consider with Liverpool is the way that they've always played during the Jurgen Klopp era, which is very, very front foot. It can get wild at times. I think he did add discipline to it. But that brings in the second factor in as much as I don't think they've really been settled at the back the whole season. Arguably, if you look at the back five, which includes the goalkeeper, only Van Dijk. Actually, that's not true for the Sunday because Robertson came back. But the other three players, arguably would not be starting players if Alisson, Trent, and also Konate was fully fit. My guess is that would be the first choice defense.
Yeah. And Trent isn't known for his defense per se. I don't think he's nearly as bad as people make him out to be. But yeah, Konate is when Trent kind of drops into the midfield, kind of leaks into the middle, Konate can really clean up that area with any long balls over the top. And it's unlucky for Kwanzaa on against Manchester United, but we'll get to that. What were your overall feelings of the game against Sheffield? The scoreline probably doesn't really reflect the game.
Well, again, they were missing a lot of chances. I think the media tends to highlight that Liverpool gives up chances, which they do. Again, coming back to the way that they play. But I don't know that any team creates as many chances as Liverpool because they can be relentless at times going forwards. And I think that you're correct in your evaluation of the first half performance in as much as they created so many chances. But yet the one goal that they scored was scored just by the endeavour of Darwin Núñez, basically just charging down the goalkeeper's kick. It wasn't through a created move, and yet Liverpool did create many, many moves where they should and might have scored. But and then, of course, Sheffield equalises. It was a little fortunate, you could say. I mean, but they could have scored in the first minute where they really should have scored. Kelleher making a great stop. But they equalise, and then I felt that we went through a phase where Liverpool looked a little bit rattled, and that changed once Mac Allister scored the goal, which was an incredible strike. And then once that's happened, the belief is back. I think one of the things for me that I've not heard anybody highlight is the way that Salah is playing right now.
Yeah.
Because if you analyse his games, and I'm going further back to Brighton as well, he's had a lot of really good quality chances. And whilst Mo Salah has always scored a lot of goals, I wouldn't rate him as a clinical type of finisher. He scores a lot. He misses a lot. And I'd say he's missing a lot more than usual. And one thing that I keep in mind was 2 years ago when Liverpool was chasing the quadruple. If you go back to that run-in for the season, I think Liverpool were running slightly out of gas a little bit, but I think Mo Salah in particular wasn't quite at the level that he was, say, the year before. And I kind of get the same feeling right now. And in both cases, it's after the Africa Cup of Nations. So I don't know whether there's a connection there. I don't know if it's history repeating itself, but Salah is off pace.
Yeah.
Because again against United, he had some great chances and he didn't even hit the target some of the time.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because, he did score against Manchester United, but it was a penalty kick. He had opportunities there as well. And although the stats like goals and assists are pretty good, but versus the opportunities, yeah, something's off. And he didn't play the whole African Cup because he got hurt, and then he kind of lingered for a while. And I'm just curious if it's just knocking the dust off the rust, so to speak. But I don't. Something's off. And Coach, I don't know if you've noticed this. Do you think maybe has he lost a little bit of a step? He doesn't look as fast, as dynamic.
I can't say that I've noticed that so much, but I think the one thing that is significant is that he was taken out in the Sheffield United game fairly early on.
Yeah, 59th minute.
And that could be, there could be several factors for that. I thought he was invisible in the game. I don't think he really did much in the game. So, that could be a factor. The manager could also be sending him a message and saying, hey, you may be Mo Salah, you may be our go-to goal scorer, but you still got to pull up your socks. And so does that mean something off? I'd say there's indicators that possibly so, but I think we've got a few days, hopefully, before the Atalanta game, and then we've got Palace next Sunday to hopefully get that right.
Yeah, Gakpo, and I think is being a little underutilized, but I think also not having, I can't think of his name, the Portuguese,
Jota.
Jota. Wow, I had a brain fart there. Yeah, and Jota not being there, I think Jota is the most clinical finisher of the team. The chances that we're creating, we're not finishing, and I think if Jota was there, there might be a little bit different feel to all that.
Yeah, I think that you're correct, and I think that the sad reality is at the time that he picked up the injury, he was, he'd just been voted Player of the Month in the EPL.
Yeah, he was flying.
And he was on form. And I think we noted at the time, that could be a significant loss for Liverpool. And when you have games like Saturday, which is really a game that Liverpool should have won, and they didn't, and they had plenty of chances that they didn't convert, and so they can only look at themselves. missing your most clinical finisher, which I think everybody accepts that Jota is that, has great meaning and great significance.
Yeah. It was, you mentioned Robo, and it was nice to see him back. The cross he had to Gakpo in the 90th minute against Sheffield to really put that game away, it was fantastic. And Gakpo, wide open down the middle, great header down and to the right of the goalie, almost unstoppable. What did you think of Robo's performances over the two games?
Robertson, Liverpool have missed Robertson at times this year. And I think going back to the Sheffield United game, Gomez has done a fantastic job for Liverpool. He's filled in at left full back, and he's filled in several other roles.
Yeah.
But what you could see quite clearly against Sheffield United was that once Liverpool started to struggle a little bit, or maybe things weren't going quite their way, that the team started to look unbalanced, because Robertson, he's a natural left footer. He's dynamic. He's got an incredible work rate, and what a crosser of the ball he is.
Yeah,
he's just phenomenal in that department, and so the team started to look unbalanced, I felt. Robertson comes on, and then you kind of see the other side of the coin. Liverpool are much more balanced as a unit overall, right and left, and he's a danger. He's a threat. And it was a great cross, as you say, for Gakpo to convert.
Even Macca's goal, it was Robertson who crossed the ball on the ground, and it was just not, the ball wasn't cleared properly. It wasn't in the air. It just deflected off of Diaz, and then Macca stepped into it. And the commentator said, I don't know if two goalies could stop that one. And I completely agree. That was a work of art.
Yeah, it was right in the top corner. Yeah, so I think that's a fact. But again, if you look at the way Liverpool have been for the last few years, with Trent on one side, Robertson on the other, I mean, that has been a key part of their attacking plan. The high full backs, they're both tremendous crossers of the ball, and consequently, Liverpool have been dangerous and have scored a lot of goals.
Also, in the 85th, Mac Allister had that unbelievable free kick that got slightly deflected in the wall and literally hit the corner where the goalpost and the crossbar meet. And it was a fantastic free kick. And I thought if that ball didn't get deflected, the goalie's still not getting there. And I'm starting to think that, with penalty kicks and free kicks, Mac Allister and Robertson have to be the guys, and Szoboszlai can hit one too, but those three have to be the guys stepping into that role. And I would like to see Mac Allister taking penalty kicks. Mo scored the one this weekend, but Mac Allister had the ball for a little bit, but it was the old, I'll have the ball and then hand it off to the guy who's actually taking it. But I was really hoping Mac Allister would take it. I feel more confident in Mac Allister at the penalty spot than Mo. How do you feel about that?
Possibly. I think one of the things that has to be managed to some degree is I think if anybody on the team has a little bit of an ego, it's Mo Salah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's out of control or anything like that, but he definitely has an ego. Apparently, he's very aware of breaking records and the stats and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a huge part of what motivates him as a player. And over his time at Anfield, I don't think you can really dispute what he's brought to the club and the team and all of that. So my gut feeling is that Salah's always going to grab the ball, and I think to some extent you've got to go with it.
Yeah.
You have to go with it. And is he as reliable as Mac Allister? I don't know what Mac Allister's stats are overall for penalty kick taking. I mean, he certainly tucked away the one against was it Manchester City? Yeah. That he took that penalty away with real authority because the goalie went the right way.
Right.
But I think you've got to factor in Salah's ego. I was just watching something on YouTube, analysis of the game, and so the pundits were talking about Liverpool's forwards playing for themselves, which kind of puzzled me a little bit, because if you look at the stats, that certainly isn't the case. I mean, going beyond goals scored, because they're all in double figures. Nunez has 13 assists, Salah has 12, and then the next one down is Diaz with 4. So, like, there's plenty of assists. There's nearly 30 assists between the 3 starting forwards right now.
Right.
And
yeah, it doesn't check out.
Yeah. Salah missed a good part of the season there, and did Diaz have a spell out as well?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah. So I don't think that's so much of a factor as to why Liverpool missed and are missing chances. But yes, yeah, I suppose that you've got to break it down to the basics. It's good that they create chances. Now they need to touch the Robbie Fowlers about them.
Yeah. I mean, Robbie Fowler's, one chance, it's one goal. I mean, almost always he was so clinical. But the team overall is working hard, and that says something also. It's not like we're lackadaisical, and I think all teams go through spells, right, where they have a lot of chances and they don't score as many as they can, and then they go through spells where the chances aren't as much, but they score them. So I'm hoping that we can kind of break out of this funk that feels it's been for 3-4 games here. And funk, I think, might be a little harsh of a word because they're still winning games, but there's just something missing right now, and it's the goal scoring.
Yeah,
in relation to chances.
I think looking at things realistically, I think players coming back are going to go into the team.
Yeah,
and so if you look at Conor Bradley, for example, I mean, he's done very, very well. I feel he's tailing off slightly right now.
I agree.
And I think that's understandable because he comes in, and he was a boy that kind of had, he was highly touted. They put him out to Bolton last year where he had a great season. He was in the League One Team of the Season. He was Bolton Player of the Year. And you can say, okay, well, that's only League One, but he's a teenager and he's playing men's football and it's physical and it's competitive. And he'd played a little bit the season before for Liverpool, and he'd have been, 18 at the time? And he looked very good. He looked very good at 18.
Yeah.
So he's come in, he's had an impact. The media's picked up on him. There's a little bit of a spotlight, a little bit of pressure on him, and he's been doing great, and he didn't play badly on Sunday, but it's tailed off a little bit. And I think the reality is that once Trent is ready, I think Trent will come back into the team. And my guess is that Bradley will be used as an impact sub.
Yeah.
I think Alisson will come back into the team, and that's very, very tough on Kelleher because he's done tremendously well.
Yeah, he's been very good.
I mean, just going back to the Sheffield United game, like they really should have scored in the opening minute.
Yeah.
And he made a fabulous stop. And I've heard one or two say, "Oh well, why was he off his line when Fernandes scored?"
Oh, come on.
Which by the way was one heck of a goal. But I think that you've got to look at the modern game, and it's not just Liverpool, but all the top teams, the goalkeepers are effectively sweepers.
Right.
And I think there have been quite a few of these longer range goals because the goalkeepers are out of position. So what do you want? What do you want? I felt sorry for Kwanzaa because obviously he's played a lot more. I'm not sure that he's ever played in a competitive match for Liverpool before this season. He might have played in pre-season games, but he's ended up playing quite a lot, and he's done extremely well.
Yeah.
And if you look at the playback, Van Dijk's actually indicating pass it back, which he doesn't do. But again, credit Bruno Fernandes. It was a heck of a goal, and the same for Manchester United second. And you can't legislate for those kind of things. If they score goals like that,
yeah,
are you at fault? Well, I suppose you could say Kwanzaa's at fault, but in another sense, it was the brilliance of the Manchester United player.
And to be fair to Keller, he almost got to that ball. I mean, it was.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I mean,
tips away, yeah. So I think Alisson will come back, and I think Jota, whether he starts or he comes off the bench, he'll probably be a sub at first, but I think he'll come back into the team. But the one thing we have to keep in mind is they come back, but it doesn't mean that they're at full steam yet.
Right.
And one thing that I heard several pundits say was Curtis Jones came on as a sub. Now he's basically coming back after a spell out as well, and he wasn't up to game speed yet. So I think it's great that they're coming back. So coming back to Trent, I think Trent will go back into the team, but don't be shocked if he's hooked after, I don't know, 60 minutes or something, and he puts Bradley on.
Right.
Because Bradley, I think, also has the potential to be an impact sub because of his energy.
Yeah, for sure. And Coach, when injured players come back into the teams, we kind of see, how they build up their game time. They'll come in for the last 10, 15 minutes to start, and then they'll come in for 30 minutes the next game, and then maybe the next game they'll play 60. So it takes 3-4 games to get back to really being a starter again. Is that how you would view injuries, generally speaking, or is there another way to view them?
No, I think that's the logical and most practical way. I think that what changes the scenery a little bit here is the time of the season and what is at stake. So if you're looking at an Alisson, it's a goalkeeper. I think that's a different situation. I think he'll just come back into the team and he'll play.
Yeah.
Whereas a Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think that what will happen is that he might get half an hour as a sub, possibly in like a Europa game.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think once he's had that, then he'll start him. Now, if it was earlier in the season, maybe he might nurture him a little bit more. But I think we all know, and I don't need to tell Jurgen Klopp here, is that Trent Alexander-Arnold is a very creative player. And so if you have him plus Mac Allister, that is going to give the team an added dimension. Okay, maybe he can't go the full 90, so then you mix it a little bit. I think Bradley's a good crosser of the ball, and he's got tremendous energy, so he can still bring something to the team in the absence of Trent, but it's something different.
Yeah, and with Curtis Jones now making his way back, you mentioned Alisson, we mentioned Trent, we mentioned Jota, and Konate. I mean, the team, as far as getting healthy, it would have been nice to be maybe a couple weeks ago to get them all back and healthy. But the fact that here in the last 8 games, we're going to have those options along with the guys that have been playing and replacing them is going to be really, really critical because, yes, okay, we're not in pole position anymore, but there's going to be a couple more twists and turns before a champion is crowned. And the fact that we're going to be healthy and ready to go here in the next week or so, it's going to be pretty impactful.
I think it can be, but I think that you've got to be realistic as well, because even with a full complement of players, I think Liverpool has certain weaknesses, and I think it's got something to do with the fact that basically this season, as advertised, is a rebuild. So I think that Liverpool still potentially, with all the top players, is going to struggle against teams that park the bus. And I think there's at least one game that I can see in the fixture list where I know that that's going to happen, and where we know it's going to happen, and that's the derby with Everton.
Right.
And so if you're looking at Everton and comparing them to Manchester United, they may not have the brilliance of a Fernandes or a Manu, but they defend much better than Manchester United. So I don't think Liverpool will create chances because that's the team that they are. But they're not going to create that many, say compared to the United games. So that is going to be a tougher game than I think the pundits and I think that the fans realise. But that's still several games away. Liverpool has a run where they have 4 games away in very quick succession in just over a week, if you include the Atalanta game in Italy.
Yeah.
And I believe Everton's one of those games, but that is a big ask for any team. That's a big ask for any team. And I have to be honest with you, I look at City's run in, and I can't see them dropping points in any of them. Sad, I'm sad to say. Now there's still a point behind. So obviously Liverpool wins them all. Then they edge them out, but I think Liverpool are stretched. I don't mean to be negative. I think they've done an incredible job to be where they are, but can they keep it going? And I think there's got to be question marks. Arsenal now have the advantage because of the goal difference. And having watched the way that they handled Brighton aren't the same team that they were last year.
Right.
And I know they have to play Manchester City as well, but they aren't the same team. And but I don't think they did anything really against Arsenal.
No, it didn't. I mean, it was very comfortable for Arsenal. I can't even think of a chance where I was like, oh, that had, that could have been a goal there. I mean, it was just.
Mm-hmm.
It was like just a professional, clinical, defensive, just all around Arsenal type of game. The way they've been playing the last 6-7 weeks, ever since they beat Liverpool 3-1, they've really been in fantastic form. The defense is solid. You can see even the way they're responding to the games. There's an excitement about the players. They're talking a lot more. They're showing a lot more emotion. And but Brighton, no, it was very easy 3-0 win. I mean, even if they won 1-0, I would have been like, it was easy.
Yeah, and I think the truth of the matter is that Arsenal's not going to concede much.
Right. Yeah.
So
the best defensive team.
So even though there's the question mark about the strikers, even though they've scored more goals than everybody else, there is that question mark that lingers. If somebody can hold them at bay and it becomes a 0-0, will they be able to get the one key goal, because they don't have a Haaland or a player like that in their ranks. But having said that, they are just playing with so much authority right now that they look like they could win all their games as well.
Yeah, they have a more difficult fixture list, but yeah, they're playing very
The-
well.
yeah. I think they have a harder list than Manchester City. The other thing that becomes a factor are the European games in all of this,
Right.
um, because
Manchester City has
well,
Real Madrid and Arsenal has Bayern Munich. I mean, those are not cupcake
right.
games at all.
No, I mean obviously City has they have the tougher draw,
Right.
so how easily will they be able to come Madrid? Will they be able to overcome Madrid? I think the one disadvantage that Arsenal has in Europe is that they don't have quite that same authority, and we saw that a little bit in the previous round when they went to Portugal and they lost to FC Porto.
Right.
So I mean, Bayern aren't having a great season, as we all know, but at this point, this is what they have to play for. So they do have European experience. Thomas Tuchel, the manager, has won the Champions League, so he knows what it takes.
And Harry Kane knows
And of course,
Arsenal very
there's the
well.
Harry Kane. There's the Harry Kane element as well. And I think the best scenario for Liverpool is that they both advance so that they have more games,
Mhm.
and they both advance so that they play each other.
Right.
Because I think that could take a lot of energy out of both camps.
Yeah.
And so Liverpool has to have the frame of mind of the old cliche, concentrate on the next game, take it as it comes, and all that kind of stuff, and just keep grinding out wins,
Yeah.
and then let's see what happens. I mean, Liverpool have European games as well. Obviously, at Atlanta, will not be ranked at the same level as Bayern and Real Madrid. But if Liverpool don't get a positive result on Thursday, or it's like a 1-0 win, then all of a sudden the second leg becomes a bigger ask.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've got this Thursday to Sunday thing, coming back from Italy, and I can't remember who they play afterwards, but it's an ask. It's an ask of any team. If they can get a convincing win on Thursday, then I think the manager will be tempted to rotate more. I mean, I don't think he'll turn out, like the youth team or anything like that. But I think he might rest, I don't know, 4 players, say.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's close, then you've probably got to go with close to a full strength squad.
Yeah. With these guys coming back, it's nice that there's kind of a lot of games that he can tinker with the lineup in the Europa League to make sure that we're kind of really honed in on the Premier League. The coach, no question about it, though. Sheffield United man of the match is Mac Allister, right? I mean, not even close, right? Yeah. With the Man United game, Diaz was very aware in the 23rd minute, just keeps himself alive, finds an open space. Darwin flicks it, and somewhat of an acrobatic type of goal. He's very good at contorting his body to strike a ball, and it was a really good goal. And we talked about Bruno's 45 yards. I mean, he didn't even take a touch; he just hit it, and I think out of 10 times, he probably scores 5. He's a talented player. He's very hard to watch because of his antics, but technically speaking, he's an excellent player. And Kobe Manu's curl, not much, like you said, not much you can do about it. Maybe close him down a little bit quicker. But it was very interesting when Harvey Elliott came in and Wan-Bissaka fouled him, and how the commentators and the pundits after were like, what was he thinking? You know, I mean, it was a bad foul. And in the box, he committed himself, and we got the 2-2 draw. Also, at the end, Luis Diaz had a chance. It's just the way it goes sometimes. But one thing I noticed about the United game that I'm not sure why this player isn't included more often, but last year in the 7-0 win, Cody Gakpo played phenomenally against Manchester United. And when he came on, United looked a little bit like they couldn't handle him. I'm not sure if it's just his height and his overall skill and speed, but I was just saying to myself, like, this guy's got to play against his team. Like, I think this is the team that he can really, for some reason, they can't handle him. He plays really well against. And I thought he came in and played really well, but at the Manchester United game at Anfield, when it was 0-0, I was saying the same thing. I'm like, this guy, I think United is Cody Gakpo's team where he just plays well. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Could be. It could be. I mean, like, he scored two fantastic goals against them last year. I think Gakpo is clearly the fourth choice for Klopp right now. I have a feeling he might start him, though, against Atalanta. Mm-hmm. Maybe to look at something different for the remainder of the season. You know, I know it's been kind of suggested, and it's something that I thought when I saw him play last year, that he kind of plays more of a Bobby Firmino type role, where he comes off and becomes the false nine, as they call it. Although he's a lot bigger lad. He's a lot bigger lad than Firmino. And having said that, though, he's got very good touch and what have you. But yeah, I have a feeling that he'll start on Thursday in the Europa League, and I think the challenge for Jurgen Klopp is basically how to fit all these players in, and he has done a good job of that. How he uses his subs. Mm-hmm. I know some questions some of his choices at the weekend, but I think that's the unfortunate thing about being a manager is if it comes off, you're golden, and if it doesn't work, then you get questions. So, I mean, it's not going to work every single time, but I think one of the things that he's still trying to figure out with Gakpo is how best to employ him for the benefit of both the player and the team.
Yeah. And I was just taking a look at when Trent and Jota are expected back, and it seems like it won't be this weekend. It'll be the next weekend. But the Crystal Palace game is in between the two Atalanta games. And then I believe it's Fulham, maybe Everton, and one second out here. At the two...
West Ham, isn't it?
Yeah, Fulham, Everton, and then West Ham.
So those are all tricky fixtures, I think, for Liverpool. If it was Manchester City, I'd say, I would definitely expect them to get nine mm-hmm. points. I hate to say that, but it's just the way that I feel. I think for Liverpool, that they could win them all, but I don't think it's quite as crystal clear.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Fulham game at Anfield this year was remarkable, and I mean, I don't know how they pulled out a win that day, to be honest with you. And West Ham will be counter-attack again.
Mm-hmm.
Liverpool have lost there in recent seasons, and Everton, we talked a little bit about that earlier. I think, obviously, that Liverpool's a superior team, but Everton's fighting for their lives, and they are going to park the bus big time, and they are usually solid at the back. They're usually very, very solid at the back. So I don't think it's going to be if Liverpool wins, I don't think it's going to be a big score. It's going to be 1 or 2 goals at most.
Yeah. Do you think perhaps that with all these chances and not scoring as many as you would like, do you think there's like a possible explosion in one of these where the chances are just finding the back of the net? Because sometimes it feels that way, like you're almost there and then all of a sudden...
Could be. I mean, like, I think that's always a possibility. But one thing that I've noted over the years, and I think we saw that last year, where Liverpool had, I mean, obviously it was an up and down season. But they had 3 games where they literally exploded. And that was the Bournemouth game when they stuck in 9. Rangers in the Champions League, they stuck in 7. And then, of course, the aforementioned Manchester United game where they stuck in 7. But yeah, I think in nearly every case afterwards, they lost the next game to a lower team. And so I think that those kind of games tend to happen more, or it seems that they happen more in seasons when they're more up and down. So a goal explosion is always possible. I mean, I watched the Crystal Palace Manchester City game, and even though Palace scored early and they had a couple more good chances in the first half, to be honest with you, Manchester City looked like they could score at will against them. Maybe they weren't at their best in the first half, but they certainly were in the second. So could Liverpool get a goal explosion against Crystal Palace? Possible, but I'd be surprised. Be nice if they did, because that instantly takes the Arsenal thing out of the equation. But I wouldn't bet money on it. Is how he puts it.
Endo looked lost on Sunday against United. His touch was off. He wasn't. What happened there? What do you make of that?
Well, again, we don't know. Obviously, he was rested for Sheffield United because he picked up a knock in the previous game.
That's true.
So you don't know what the issue is. Will he play against Atalanta? I think that only the manager knows the answer to that. I mean, because he knows what the injury is. I'm sure that he will prioritize Crystal Palace over Atalanta. So I would expect Curtis Jones to start on Thursday. I would expect Jones to start. He's not going to leave Mac Allister out. And I think Szoboszlai will play. So he may well rest Endo if he feels that he's not 100%.
Yeah, Szoboszlai had a good game against United, but so many chances. I think he's lost a little confidence in front of the goal. Yeah,
maybe, but that first opportunity he had was a tremendous save by the Manchester United goalkeeper where he stuck his arm out.
That's true. Yeah,
I mean, because that was going in for sure. That was on its way.
Yeah. So the Atalanta game in the Europa League in general, when we have these two competitions, for this, quote unquote treble, is there? I think everybody would much rather win the Premiership, but if we win the Europa League and say don't come through in the Premiership, the Premier League, is it a good season? Yeah, I agree.
Yes. Yeah. Look. One thing that amazes me. I mean, the scenery overall in football, away from the field has changed from when I was growing up, because now you've got phone-in radio stations, you've got social media, and you've got all these people trolling about this, that, and the other. I mean, for me, and I know that I said this after the Carabao Cup final, it's actually the only trophy that Jurgen Klopp gets in his last season. Does it diminish his legacy? The answer is no. No, it doesn't. But I mean, like, you've already got some people trolling online about he's a failure and what has he won and really, and he hasn't won enough and all this kind of stuff. Totally ignoring the job that he had to do, where he's had to build, like rebuild. Liverpool were a decent Premier League team, and for years they'd been kind of knocking on the door. They'd get almost there, then they go back again. So, so he had to change the whole culture. He had to rebuild. He certainly connected the team to the fans, bringing back the days of Istanbul and all the way back to the 60s, like that kind of feel. So he has done just so much. He has done so much. And Liverpool aren't a poor club. But I think one thing that gets overlooked is that they've had to sell players as well to buy Alisson and Van Dijk, who both turned out to be major key players for them. So they had to sell Coutinho to get.
Yeah, they're fiscally responsible. Yeah,
very much so, very much so. Whereas some of the rivals, I could mention Manchester City, but look at what Chelsea has done, where it's just wild spending. And I think FSG, to give them credit, I mean, like, they've had their criticism and some of it has been justified, but they've never really done anything that's kind of put the club fiscally in doubt. So so Klopp has had to work within that arena, and so would a Guardiola have liked that situation? I'm not sure that he would have. And maybe several other top managers. So he's been incredible. And as I say, if the League Cup is all they get this year, then I'm glad that they got a trophy in his last season. I've been totally impressed with how he's marshaled the group this year. He's kept them in the running. They've had a bad run of injuries. At times he's had to throw in the kids and all that kind of stuff, and he's just kept the team going. And I think he's one of the greats, and Liverpool have had quite a few of those.
Yeah, the big difference with Klopp and the Guardiolas and the Mourinhos and those is you never hear him complain about lack of spending. Never.
Oh,
and you hear some of these guys like, oh, we didn't, I wanted this guy, and they almost create like chaos in the own club by coming out and complaining about not spending on this or that. And Klopp is very realistic about, okay, this is a situation, let's move forward. And obviously the relationship he has with FSG is probably not noted enough how strong that relationship is. And it's interesting that when you hear people trolling, people will always troll nowadays, and I saw some stuff about Man United is still Liverpool's big brother and just nonsense, To be fair, United took their 2 chances and scored. Okay, good for you. But there's no way in the 3 games that have been played against them, the 0-0 draw, the 4-3 FA Cup game, and the 2-2 draw, that at any point in time you would look at the stats or look at the games and say, United's on the way up and Liverpool are average. Just no chance.
Yeah, I think that's true. And as I say, I've seen all this analysis on the television and YouTube and what have you. But yeah, I think it makes you think, well, okay, like, they're not great, but yet we still didn't win. Why? And I'm sure that's kind of top of the agenda for Jurgen Klopp Monday morning, and he'll be looking to get past that.
With the Atalanta game, Coach, lineup-wise, you mentioned a couple people. Is this a game maybe where Van Dijk gets a break and it goes Konate and Kwanzaa?
I'd be surprised if he did that. I'd be surprised. Because Van Dijk is the leader, and I know some people will say, "Oh, well, what if he gets injured?" Well, you get injured in practice. So I would be very surprised. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Konate because he's kind of in and out. So he's obviously got injury issues. So I think he might well look at Konate for an hour, something like that. Maybe not play him the full 90. I think he'll want to get Jones involved because he's bringing him back, even if he doesn't play the full game. There's a good argument that Elliott deserves a start, but I think Elliott's also very effective for the energy he brings as an impact sub. I'm sure he wants to start because I think that's natural, but he does bring a lot of energy, Harvey Elliott. So it sounds like Trent's not going to play. You'll probably start off with Bradley. You probably start off with Robertson because you want to take the game to the Italian team.
Yeah. Midfield, you mentioned Jones. Is it Mac Allister and potentially Harvey Elliott?
Szoboszlai. No, well, I don't know. I think it'll be Szoboszlai or Elliott. And then I think he will start. I think the one change he'll make will be centre forward. I think he'll keep Diaz and he'll keep Salah. I think he'll start Gakpo.
Yeah.
And look to bring Núñez on. I think that's very likely. And so he's going to go for the win. I don't think he's going to rotate too much.
It's really, obvious that Mac Allister at the number 8 is just much more impactful. And with Endo's knock, or whatever that was, and him looking a little bit out of sorts on Sunday, it's tough to see Mac Allister go back to the number 6 where he's not nearly as impactful. And statistics back that up, but it's clear that at some point that has to be addressed where another number 6. But I'm curious if maybe it can be filled. Do you think there's a current player that can kind of fill in that 6 role when Endo can't be there?
Yeah, there is. There's Stepan Bajcetic. But unfortunately, he's back in training right now. I thought he was fantastic last year. He looked really good in a Liverpool team that was struggling. And I know he's rated very highly within the club. And I think he can play as a 6.
Yeah, he's a 6 for sure. Yeah.
And maybe he stays there for his career. I think that when he fills out as he gets older, he could even be a central defender. So he's still only 19. But I think that if he was fit, that he would be in contention to play against Atalanta for sure.
Yeah. Bradley, I think Gomez might start in the place of Bradley. You mentioned he looked he's been tailing off. The guy runs up and down the wing and nonstop, and at this level of competition, maybe his legs are getting a little tired. He's been playing a lot of games in quick succession. I mean, like everybody else, but maybe not something he's used to. And maybe Gomez will come in and just kind of fill in for this game.
Yeah, I think that's a good likelihood that'll happen. So we'll have to wait and see.
Well, Coach, undefeated week. Maybe not as happy as we would have liked.
It's undefeated, but as several people noted, the draw at Old Trafford felt like a loss. And actually, it could have been. I mean, it was only a few minutes away from being a loss. So I suppose you've got to try and turn that around mentally, or the manager has, and say, well, we could have lost the game, we didn't, and there's the positive.
So we'll be back next Monday. Coach, any parting thoughts? Okay.
No. I would say just get your heads up again, lads, and let's get out on Thursday, do the business, and then likewise on Sunday.
All right, sounds good. Everybody, thank you for listening. Liverpool fans, we appreciate you. We are them as well. We're part of that group as well. and we will see you guys next week. Take care, everybody. All right.